All right, guys, welcome back on Instagram. I promised you a video. Here we are. Today we're going to be discussing some of the differences, maybe the pros and cons and applications between the CJ and the Holly. So let's get into it. For us to get some accurate testing, obviously I needed to be in control of as many things as possible. So obviously same car, we ran these tests on the same road, same fuel, same weight, same tire pressure, speed, and of course gear. Was obviously the CJ. It had been on the car. It had recently gotten dialed in. I only had the CJ for maybe 3 weeks before this Holly came out. So it's ported by Brett Barber. Their standard port, not the race port. So this is going to pick up between 9 and 11 horsepower, generally speaking. The environment for the day was around 80 degrees, around 80% humidity. DA was actually at 3309, my memory serves me correctly. So actually a horrible day to actually go out there and get some numbers, but I knew it was something I was going to be able to replicate with the upcoming weather. So we went and got our first number. Once we got our first number, I had already had the Holly. I had gotten it back, I think, the day before from getting powder coated, because the way they look normally is just hideous. So went to Murillo Motorsports, threw this thing on, and I use that word through loosely. It is not like a CJ, it doesn't go on nearly the same. I have some shots of that going on, as well as some insight on a few of the things that you have to do extra to get a Holly on there versus any other intake manifold.
Ah, perfect. Maybe a picture of yours too. First off, of course, you switch over to new fuel rails, which are all going to be AN lines. So first, of course, you have to remake the right here, the fuel feed. You have to remake that, and then you have to make a crossover line in AN, and then you have to get a few fittings. Again, like here, we use the 6 AM push log to go ahead and go to the vacuum booster for the brakes. And then on this side, put a light so you can see.
Fucking train.
On this side, we use a 3/8 nipple right here to go into the DI. But I mean, other than that, it's pretty much it. Just be ready with your AN fittings. You're gonna switch over.
Finally got the higher M on. We got dialed in. I'm gonna do this right now because it's on the first tune they sent me. It said it's running good. I feel like it probably needs more. I'm not a tuner. I just feel like one pull that just seems a little quick. So he said it's running solid. We went out, same day, same road, same everything like I mentioned before, even down to the front tire pressure. I wanted to make sure everything was as even as possible. Again, this is completely non-biased. I don't gain anything if one or the other is better. Went out, and the intake manifolds run within a 1/10 of a second of each other. So with this information and other information that I had gathered, like a race ported Cobra Jet versus a ported Holly, they're equal, or a non-ported CJ versus a non-ported Holly, the Holly does better. The person that's gonna sit up here and say, because of my testing and the couple of other people that I've talked to say that it is set in stone, I feel like we're gonna need probably at least a dozen cars to prove this. But so far it's looking like the Holly is going to be the superior intake manifold. With the Holly, right, you know, it's $800. Like, wow, it's so much cheaper, but there's a couple things to consider. Number one is going to be, it's $860 to have this manifold shipped. Then you're gonna need about $150 in AN fittings, extra hose, things like this, because you've got to do a little bit of modification yourself. There's like a crossover pipe in the back. You have to do all of your own fuel rail setup. You have to actually take the supplied gasket and cut it proper for the top and bottom and for the throttle body. So if you mess that up, your car's not going to be running that day. And obviously plug off a few things. You'll need breathers, but you need that for a CJ as well. And the last bit of information, and probably some of the most important information is that Brett Barber has an acquaintance that put a Brett Barber ported Cobra Jet, the standard version, versus a non-modified Holley on an engine stand. So, you know, the environment could not get any more equal. And they made, if I'm not mistaken, within 1 horsepower of each other. That's something that's gonna be hard to refute. It takes a more expensive manifold with porting to keep up with a non-modified Holley out of the box. So that's where we stand. If something does change, I'll be sure to let everybody know. Like I said, this is just an informational thing. I don't benefit anything from it. If it comes out and there's a major problem with them down the road, I'm certainly gonna let everybody know. But for now, that's where we're at, guys. We'll see you in the next one.